Hello, guys. So I've got Barry on the show, and me and Barry we touched. I think it was almost 2 years ago. I went to one of his events,
Yeah.
a digital currency event, and it was interesting to sort of touch back after 2 years, and it's all come together, from the post pandemic. And as you know, Barry's got a lot of experience in sort of the financial world, where the world is heading to, especially the monetary system and what's going on with the money side of things, from a post-pandemic world to digital currencies, to the printing of money, which I think is not working, and so forth. And just a little stat I like to share on the show is that the US printed the most amount of money in the entire history in 2020 than any other era. So that's kind of rang a couple of alarm bells for me. But it's great to get Barry on board. Barry's got a lot of experience in the financial world, in the economical world, and he's going to be telling us about the future of money in a post-pandemic world, where we'll share some 5 questions about this. So Barry, introduce yourself to the audience. It'll be great to hear.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm an old timer in the sense that I've been at the junction of society, thinking about the junction of society and
Right.
technology for a very long time now. Um,
Yes. Tell us a
More
little
than
bit about
30
your
years.
background, sort of. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so my career is sort of spanned from a degree in technology. A degree in psychology. I went straight into what I now call Jurassic FinTech,
Okay.
which is was the banking industry in back in the day, where when they were the only ones who had computers. At which point I was a systems designer, and spent 10 years doing that. I became an entrepreneur after that, in medtech. And
Okay.
did groundbreaking work. Pre-web, brought some of the modem-based technology to do groundbreaking work there, and have been involved with innovators ever since. And these days, I chair the British Blockchain and Frontier Technology Association, which is kind of how we met, with me talking about blockchain and its potential. And actually now I'm now heading something called the Humane Economics Project,
Right.
because the economics that we have and the decision-making framework it's created and is used operatively is killing us and the planet. So we have to do something about that. And part of that, I come to you fresh from last night's Keystone event,
Amazing.
big debate, the first real debate on the remaking of money, because that's
Right.
where we are right now.
Yes.
We're on the cusp of the next stage of the internet of money.
Yes, and it's great to have you on the show and share some of these thoughts with my audience, and maybe tell us where the future of money is going. So Barry, we've got 5 questions we'd like to share with you, and my first question is where do you see the future of money going from a post-pandemic world? Is optimism returning? Can you give us some insight to where we were before and where we are now? Because I've only just seen the records of the inflation spikes that are currently occurring. Where do you see that going?
Okay, well, I think we're on a very rocky road, aren't we? And there's actually cause for both optimism, if we do the right things, but we have to do them, uh, and also actually alarm. One of the
Right.
things that we were talking about yesterday, as I referred to it, is the really pressing need to take the effect of the economy, and the way that we target our thinking and decision making on the planet much, much more seriously. We're playing with fire, and the fire is randomized, mass extinction of huge numbers of human beings. So randomized genocide. So we've got to change. The system we've got is not fit for purpose, and its problems have been worsened and accelerated. We were right to respond vigorously
Hmm.
to the pandemic. We should be
Hmm.
responding just as vigorously to the structural problems that are, on the one hand, putting the planet in jeopardy, and our continued existence as a species, and many people in jeopardy, but also that has, moved us from, over the last 40 years, from a situation where each generation were getting better off to one
Right.
where each generation now is worse off. And these are structural problems that we have to address now. We have to solve them. The clock's ticking.
Right. And so, going on to that, we'll break down the structural problems of inflation and the money printing. I just recently said that stat about the US history printing the most money in history in 2020. Where do you see inflation going now? We've just got the records out the other day that it's the highest it's ever been since 2010. Especially in the inflation world, things are becoming a little bit more expensive. Can you add to that? To that fact that things are getting more expensive.
Yeah. Look, there are inevitable, consequences and effects from the kind of vigorous action that's had to be taken.
Hmm.
And as I say, it was right that we would take them, and you can see that as, in a sense, spreading the pain. But if that pain, and this is the danger at the moment, if that pain is to be endured by the just about managing, and the not really managing, and the people who are in financial pain, then
Hmm.
we've got a big problem. And that's where the road we're on, because
Right.
we have a financial system that has been captured, to use a word from David Orrell
Hmm.
of quantum economics fame, who was with us last evening. It's been captured, and we have financial engineers in the system. What are they for? Well, they're to create money pumps. That's why the wealth of the super wealthy has doubled and trebled in the last 12 months. So we can see, we begin to
Massive.
see the
Yeah.
continents in the map
Inequality. Yeah.
of not just inequality, but structural problems within the system. One of the problems with economics as we know it, which we now know is unequivocally wrong and unfounded, and is causing many of the problems, or in fact, the systemic problems that we have, is that it assumes that the economy will automatically, of itself, maybe with a little help, but is a system that will rebalance itself. It
Right.
hasn't for 40 years, and that's long enough for an experiment. We have to act.
Try new things. So you think inflation? We had the COVID, and it just seems like it was a bit of a nightmare that all this has kind of happened. We had COVID, and it was something in the making where whenever there's a black swan event or something that caused massive structural shift to the society, inflation follows. We had that in the 2008 financial crisis. We've had that with COVID. Is it working? I mean, the money in our pockets are becoming less and less valuable while consumer goods are moving up. Is that working?
No, it's definitely not working. And just on the black swan thing for a moment, on the scale of politicians' focus, week to week, news cycle to news cycle, and at most parliament to parliament. Yeah, COVID was a black swan event, but it wasn't a black swan event at all.
Okay.
We knew we were going to have a pandemic. It was a matter of when. So there's a problem with the structure also right there. But no, it's not working. The system that we have is a spiral, and it's
Hmm.
spiraling out of control. Why do I say that? Money is created, 97% of money is created currently by commercial banks. Even the Bank
Yes.
of England will tell you this now. It was a matter of
Yes.
dispute for
And
years.
the Fed.
And the money to repay the interest on that isn't created, and creates a growing debt pile within the economy. We're all becoming more indebted, and there's no way for that to be repaid.
Right.
And obviously, interest on the debt begins to
Interesting,
multiply.
Barry.
So we're in a death spiral as far as that's concerned.
Do
We
you see
have to
more money
fix it.
printing? Do you see more of that, Barry? Or do you think it's going to halt for
Oh,
now?
there is going to be more money printing, but that's not the
Right.
answer. It's not the
Okay.
answer. So you're going to ask me what the answer is, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay, so let me shift the scene to where we stand right now, and what we,
Yeah.
what we possibly can do about it. As I mentioned earlier, we are right now at the beginning of the next stage of the internet. We're going to have a new stage. It's going to be more disruptive than this stage. I lived through this stage. In fact, I predicted this stage. I was one of those people who was going around explaining what modems were to people, and telling them that the internet and the web were going to be huge, and actually weren't going to just join the mainstream, but they're going to be the mainstream.
And no one
Way back
believed you then, I bet.
no one believed me. A few people believed me, actually, and they benefited from it. And we're
Right.
going to do that again. But
Okay.
we're at that point again. And where we are is that we are going to remake money in the next 5 years.
Right.
And most of the decisions that go into that are being made in the now and in the next 18 months. And they're being made at the moment without any democratic oversight within the world's central banks. 86%, the Fed reluctantly, the Bank of England more enthusiastically, the European Central Bank are all working under pressure. They have to do this. They don't have a choice
Right.
because China's well ahead. And China is going to provide the Silken Cloud, which is the electronic and digital version of the Silk Road, in
The
an
digital
attempt
yuan.
to dominate in a good or bad way.
Mm-hmm.
Think Amazon on steroids. Think global Amazon available to everyone, but not as it is now. Think forward 2 generations, not just one. What that might look like, and that's what we're on catch up with. So that's why the designs are there's feverish work. If we get that wrong, we perpetuate what we've got and make it 10 times worse by adding fuel to the fire. And the fuel is, as John Adams, the economist, has recently said, Orwellian. The
Right.
power in terms of control and micro control inherent in electronic money. And I mean money. I don't mean this is a stage beyond crypto,
Digital.
right?
Yeah. I get
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
and the key
We're
difference
moving
is
up another tier. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the key difference is this: with crypto, you opt in. With
We'll go into that in a minute, but yeah.
with fiat money, well, I'm just making the distinction.
Yeah.
With fiat money, you can't opt out. They'll tell you at the moment that you will be able to, but that will be for a limited period. And in many
Right.
ways, you won't be able to opt out. So this has mass adoption, the holy grail for crypto, built in, different architecture. And we have to take this opportunity to solve that structural problem. We know how to do it. We need new digital institutions to do it. And we're working now through the work through remakingmoney.com, you can see it on the screen,
Amazing.
and through the mechanisms we were talking last night on the architecture for that right now. We
Right.
can do this.
So you think money printing is going to go on? You think, just to narrow this down, but you think that that's going to continue, and there's going to be something that will come in as we will go into crypto in a minute, but there will be a catalyst to basically change that, right? To change the whole system, sort of thing.
There will always be money printing in
Right.
fiat currencies. There will always be money printing.
Okay.
The big question is what for
What
and
for?
how
Yeah.
that works. At the moment, money is printed and then in effect given to the banks, and they provide it to the economy and charge interest on it. In future, and again, I'd reference the recent talks from the Bank of England. There was a very recent one by Sir
I think
John
Bank of
Cunliffe.
England are the most biggest money printers in the world, apparently.
Yeah, and we had a representative from the Bank of England in the debate last night, affirming much of what I'm saying here. we need to change the way that that works, and it needs to be, when it's necessary, it needs to be done on behalf of society,
Right.
and the benefits from that need to flow to society.
Amazing. Great insights, Barry. And we're all learning here at the same time. So let's go into a little bit. You just touched upon crypto and blockchain. Um, Looks like the whole system is starting to shake inside and out, and we're entering a new paradigm here. Where do you see the monetary aspects of crypto and blockchain technology going if we're going to change the system?
Okay, so I need to make a clear distinction here. What I've just been talking about, which are central bank digital currencies, will they use blockchain? Maybe, probably
Mm,
not. If they do, it'll probably be blockchain, but not as we know it, Jim. In that it'll be so permissioned and so restricted and so slightly decentralized rather than really decentralized. It'll be hardly recognizable. And I think that's pretty much inevitable.
right,
Um, I've been a huge, as you know, enthusiast for blockchain, and I think
right.
it's got a huge future and a huge place in not just in around crypto, but in the economy more generally, and in changing the way that that works and the way that the infrastructure works. It's great infrastructure, great technology to build infrastructure.
Mhm.
Um,
So,
Cryptos, they certainly have a future as digital assets, and that wasn't the original intention of Bitcoin, certainly, but it's turned out to be the reality, and that will continue. Whether they, what role they can play as a money and in terms of rivaling money is still to be played for, and we've been playing for 10 years now, and where that's not, that's not obvious. I was at the UN building in Vienna a couple of years ago, at the time when we all still thought that this counterculture movement could overcome all the barriers and become the world currency, and it would be so much better. And there would be, because, how were the powers that be going to stop that? Well, actually, I came away from that meeting of the Financial Action Task Force understanding that they had created a strategy that would do what's happened since, which is contain this and bring it into not under the control and management of the mainstream. So I think that we need to be realistic about this, and I know that's a very sad thing. I found it a very sad thing to understand that. I think it's got a huge future and a huge role, but it's not. I don't think it's the one we originally dreamed of.
okay, and that's kind of interesting. Do you think so? With Bitcoin, it's another version of a currency. We can all agree it's a digital form of currency.
I
Do you
don't
think?
agree. I disagree on that point.
Okay, tell me
Um,
why.
yeah. So look, if it's got a beak and it waddles like a duck and it swims like a duck, it's a duck. Um, it isn't stable enough, and that's a good and
That's
a
true.
bad thing, to be a full-on currency.
Are you a
Um,
believer in
so
that sense?
in Bitcoin and
Yes.
in cryptocurrency, certainly.
Yes.
As I say, they have roles to play. We've barely begun to
Touch the
explore
surface. Yeah.
all the roles that they might play. Partly because we've been so
Right.
distracted by the initial dream, and been a little bit fixated and biased by that. But yeah, I definitely. It, what Bitcoin and all of the many of the other subsequent Ethereum and so on have achieved is enormous, inestimable, and it will go on right way into the future. But it's not quite how it was originally envisaged, I don't think.
Right. So, and that's kind of interesting because obviously Bitcoin is going through the regulatory side, regulation, clarification. Obviously, it's disrupting, the International Monetary Fund because, do you think that could pose a threat deem as a threat to the US dollar? You know, we're talking about money here, Barry. So do you think Bitcoin can pose a threat to the International Monetary Fund, or do you think money is going to change? Because I see a new blossom, I see a new branch, and something is evolving from that ground, and it's becoming like becoming a plant and then turning into a tree. Do you see, you know, that being part of the process where money is going to be disrupted? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a huge challenge to the hegemony of the dollar, which has become increasingly a problem as it's been abused since Bretton Woods.
Mhm.
It was always a mistake, as some of our historians mentioned last night. Keynes wanted actually to create a global currency called the Bancor, and the Americans insisted on having the dollar as the reserve currency for the world, and it was a huge mistake from which we're all suffering, including them. But the challenge is not going to come. In fact, there's I'm sorry, but this isn't probably what most of the people who are crypto fans necessarily want to hear. But it's not going to come from crypto. Crypto will have a place, but it's now being managed, so it will never be able to. The on
Right.
ramps and off ramps, the regulation of those means that it will never be allowed to do that. What will do that, and what's happening right now, is what I described in relation to China, and China has huge ambition. It has an amazing strategy that is now being unveiled. The e-yuan has now been rolled out into testing in 11 different regions of China. It'll soon be rolled out
Yeah.
across the Silk, the Belt and Road countries. I think it's 38 of them, and it'll be rolled out to the world. And that, along with the euro to some extent, but largely that will be the big challenge to the dollar going forward. You heard it here first, okay?
Yeah, that's great insight, Barry, and I appreciate it. That's why I think they closed the mining farms in China. I don't know if you heard, they closed a lot of Bitcoin mining farms because they didn't accept it, and so the US opened their doors. Did you hear about that?
I did. I don't know whether that was because of this. I'm not sure that that really makes much, of a dent. It may have been because of
Yeah.
ecological concerns. I don't know, but
Okay.
it's difficult to know. I mean, the people who really are immersed in China say actually it wasn't anything to do with the CBDC stuff. It was more to do with energy. But you know,
It's a hit or miss.
we're
Yeah.
speculating, really, aren't we?
Speculating. Yeah. All right. And my final question, Barry, it's great to have you on the show. I hope all my audience, learned something through this. I would say a realistic interview for, a great interview with Barry's, got tons of experience. Do reach out to him on LinkedIn. Where do you see now the monetary system going here? We're moving from this post-pandemic world. Where do you see? I mean, we talked about inflation, and I'm going to mention it again. It's always coming up. It's that dreaded word that everybody doesn't like to hear. And I do see things becoming more and more expensive. If you just look at real estate, how far it's gone up, that youngsters today can't even afford their own home. I think that's pretty disgraceful. Whereas 20 years ago you could, or 30 years ago you could. Um, where do you see us going forward now, Barry, in terms of the monetary system, and now we're moving from this COVID era? Where do you see the GBP, the US dollar? Are they going to accelerate, or are they going to you know go down in value? What's your take on it?
So firstly, let me say two things.
Quite a big question.
I couldn't agree more about the generational problem
The
of being able
generational
to own a
shift. Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
It is absolutely disgraceful, and in fact, that's where this journey began. So we
Right.
looked at that and said, "Hey, I'm sure we can fix that with blockchain technology and fractionalization. Let's do that." And we did the analysis work, and by the end of that, we really understood that that's not going to work. It's not going to
Okay.
work because the underlying problems are in the economics and the economic models, which is where this came from and where humane economics came from.
Right.
I'd just like to mention that you said, there'll be disagreements. I'm sure there will, and debate's a great thing. If I'm happy to take opposing views and questions. You can,
Do so.
and I'd
Leave it in
invite
the
people to
comment
if
section.
if you put /n for Nora, or rather for navigate,
Mhm.
on the end of that, you can join our navigation group where we'll
Okay.
be having and continuing those debates. But to come directly to your question, it's this: we absolutely stand at a crossroads, and it's a Y-shaped crossroads, but the road we're on goes straight ahead,
Mhm.
and then we could turn off. The road ahead is to more and more of the same.
So will we lose
It's
value
more and
or
more, it's greater and greater debt that we can't
right?
service any longer. It's greater and greater, and it's ultimately, we're probably within sight of collapse of that system. And certainly, the problem being the short-termism doesn't give us a lot of room for maneuver once it kind of dawns on people. The alternative is to take what we've learned from Bitcoin, from all the cryptocurrencies in the cryptocurrency world, which is what we want to do, and create the digital institutions and the new economics, based on Kate Raworth's work with donut economics, based on David Orrell's work with quantum economics, and build the new sustainable money, the good money that supports the circular economy that we need. So I can't tell you what the future is, but I
We don't
can
know.
tell
No one
you
has a magic ball.
if we stay on the road we're on, we're in trouble. And I can tell you what we need to do right now.
And in terms of trouble, you think digital the currencies of the world, such as the third world currencies and third world countries, do you think they will devalue? Because we're going through a lot of countries which are more or less going bankrupt due to the inflation of the dollar, and no longer they're able to afford things. If you just look at Venezuela and Lebanon and places like that, there's obviously something wrong there.
Yeah, they too are casualties of our current system and the dominance of the dollar, and the assumptions that we've built in. That this is a glimmer of hope on the horizon for them. I've forgotten which. It's San Salvador, wasn't it?
El
El Salvador,
Salvador adopted, yeah,
that has
Bitcoin, yeah,
adopted or made legal tender the Bitcoin. I hope that goes well, but I doubt it's a long-term solution.
right.
But you know, yeah, I mean, this is even more important for those countries.
So the US dollar, in your eyes, will still be the king
No,
in that sense?
no,
No.
no. I think it's pretty clear now that it's going to have rivals. It will be rivaled by the euro. From their recent papers, you can see they have
Mhm.
their eye on that prize, and are working on it. But actually, China's already the biggest economy in the world, and it's barely kicked up, kicked over the engine, uh, and it has the chops, the digital chops, to move very quickly now. So guess what?
China will be here. All right, Barry, it's great to have you, mate. It was a privilege to interview you, and we learned so much through this interview. And I hope my audience, I'm sure a lot of people will be tuning in and taking a lot of insight from this. So, Barry, it's great to have you, sir. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll just say, before I do that, I'd love to come back in a little while and do an AMA if people I'm sure some
Sure, we
people
can do
really
it.
have,
We can
things
do
they want
another
to
one.
say and questions. We can do that, and
Of
maybe in a
course.
year's time we'll see how
Oh, a
the
few months. Yeah,
uh,
maybe end of the
yeah,
year.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, end of the year sounds great. So final message is this. This is really important. We are genuinely at a crossroads. The next 18 months will be absolutely crucial. And if we do nothing, if we leave it, it will be the bankers, the generation of bankers that gave us the 2008 crash, who remake the money and become more entrenched,
Mhm.
and probably so entrenched that that won't change for generations to come. But we have the opportunity to change that, and to create good money rather than the toxic money that we have at the moment. So that's why I'm inviting people to join the navigation group. Put /n on the end of, that's
Of
N
course.
for navigate, on the end of
We'll
remaking
share
money,
it on the comments section.
and join
Yeah.
us.
All
And
right, great.
it's great to have you there as well. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Barry. Look forward to that, and we'll see you at the next interview. So thanks a lot, Barry. Speak to you soon.
See you next time. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.